Hello. Hello and welcome to United Latinas Cafecito and Power Break. I'm Heidi Monica Romero, United Latinas board member, aspiring entrepreneur, and managing director at Work Renewed. Today, we are thrilled to unite with Gladys as our special guest and new United Latinas member. Today, we are going to be talking about innovation and why innovation is important for small business. Gladys, welcome and thank you for being here. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Heidi. And me siento super excited to be here and just share community. And I'm happy to introduce myself. So I'm Gladys, she, they pronouns. I am currently the founder of Inti Nova Consulting Services, where we focus on empowering entrepreneurs, just like you, Heidi, where we're focused on breaking barriers and building businesses. So we do everything from marketing, social media, all the way to business strategy.
Yeah. Wow, amazing. Okay, so you said your first and your last name. Names are important. What's like your whole name? Like all of it?
Yes. So I'm going to rep it loud and proud. I am Gladys Liliana Munoz Romero, and now I'm Mary de Perez. So there you go.
I love that. I love that. Tell me a little bit about your heritage, your culture. Where are you from? Where's your family from?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Lima, Peru. My family and I moved to Hollywood, Florida, so Fort Lauderdale area. So background, even though our nationality is Peruvian, my father is actually Black and Japanese, and my mom is Cantonese and indigenous mix. So for those wondering how did Asian descent get into Peru and just generally all over South America, during the late 19th century, early 20th century, there was indentured servants, another word for saying slaves, getting sent from Asia all the way to Peru. And so my dad's side, his great-grandfather was a Japanese indentured servant assigned to work in a finca, a plantation of rice paddy fields to cultivate rice. And his last name was originally Aoki, it was a Japanese last name, and it changed to Munoz because that was the finca or the plantation owner's last name. So that's my dad's side. My mom's side is a little bit complicated. We do know that my grandmother is actually in town. So she actually told us that her grandmother was also from Chinese, Cantonese descent. And she was also sent to work in the plantations of northern Peru. And so that's where she obtained the last name Larrea. So in conclusion, we're very diverse in different ways. However, nationally, we are Peruvian.
Wow. That was a lot. And beautiful, heartbreaking, right? Interesting. And I think it's great that you know that about like your family's history. There's so many people that just don't, but that's a beautiful mix, right? Of cultures. Wow. And you said your grandmother just told you about that, or this is something like that you always knew and was aware of?
Yeah, so growing up in Lima, Peru, and my dad's side, it was mostly Japanese affiliated. So I went to Japanese school growing up to learn to count the numbers. So my dad and my brother could recognize our culture. As far as the Black side, Black Peruvian, Afro Peru is everywhere. So that was pretty much permeated in the way how I see the world. But as far as that Asian culture side, a lot of people don't know about it, especially when you go to visit Lima, Peru. You're like, phonetically speaking, why does everybody look this way? And it's like, if you actually don't know the history of Peru and how Black folks, Japanese, Cantonese immigrants, sad stories, right, of how they ended up there. We are the definition of Peru, even though we look different. As far as the story, my grandma's here. My mom, I'm visiting South Florida for anybody who wants to know. It's my grandmother, she's 85. My mom is 65, me, 30s. And then my niece. And so my grandmother started telling us her story of how she came to know. Because it's all storytelling in our communities, right? Because there was no record back in the day. So it's really powerful to hear from your ancestors and all of that stuff.
Yes. And even just you saying that, like 4 generations in one house right now. That's beautiful. right? That's a gift. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Everything you said I didn't know. Um, and now I'm even more curious, but we'll talk another time. So, so where are you now though? So you said you're from Hollywood. You talked a little, you talked about your culture, you talked about your family's history. And I know you're visiting, but like where do you reside?
Yes. So the city I'm representing is Salem, Massachusetts, the Witch City.
Which
Um,
I
I
can't wait
could
to go to the Witch City.
I know. I'm so excited to show you around and show you beyond the Witch City. But either way, to I've been basically have lived in 3 states my whole life. So
Okay.
Florida, I then moved to California, and then now in Massachusetts. I'm visiting in South Florida as I have family here still.
Yeah.
And before that, I was living in Spain with my spouse in Madrid, and then before that, I was in Peace Corps, Guatemala. So I basically have lived in different parts of the world, I would say. And I'm just grateful for that perspective
Mhm.
because you get to see different, languages, different perspectives, different cultural. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Wow, global perspective. Is there one place that you love the most? Or that one place
Ooh.
that was your favorite maybe?
I don't have a favorite place. I think my to-go place is South Florida, Hollywood, Fort
Yeah,
Lauderdale,
girl.
Miami, because I grew up here and I knew things 20 years ago were not the same how it's now.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just like those nostalgic moments, like, oh, there was my high school. Oh, this is the same bakery and it's still existing, 20
Wow.
plus years later. So it's
Wow.
nostalgia for me just to feel back home. Yeah.
Interesting. Fun fact, y'all. I didn't know this until Gladys and I started talking, but I was also born in Hollywood, Florida, and I'm here now. And it's very rare, at least in my lifetime, that someone's like, "Oh yeah, I was born, born and raised in Hollywood." So we have the South Florida connection.
That's right.
Um, so switching gears a little bit. So I am a proud United Latinas member and board member, and I'd love to know how did you find out about United Latinas and what made you join?
Yeah, absolutely. So I long ago I was on the LinkedIn because that's how you look at professional networks. And I have Isis Ortiz Belot, who was the former president of Alpha, which is the Association Latino Professionals of America, Boston professional chapter. And
Got it.
so I saw her post about, oh, I'm part of United Latinas. You should join. Here's my referral code. And I'm like, oh, this is someone I look up to. I've been to some of the events. And so let
Yes.
me just click on it. And that's how I ended up here. So clearly, that
Hey.
post and her social capital, I was like, what is this special thing for United Latinas, right? Because I think in our communities, there are these professional networks, which are really great, but sometimes you just want these spaces of like, comadre, let's have a
Yes.
cafecito,
Yes.
just like that fun space. And then I joined and here I am. And it's been a journey. I like the meetings. That's how I met you for the first time,
Yep.
a
Yep.
virtual meetup. And I'm like, oh, everybody's just so authentically themselves. So it's been a great journey so far.
Oh, I love that. You hear that, everybody? So if you're thinking about joining, I'm going to say do it. If you have questions, please reach out to me, and I'm going to volunteer Gladys, reach out to her as well. She can
That's
tell
right.
you about her experience with United Latina so far. Okay, so I know you're a business owner, and I'd love to know more about your business. Tell me the name. Tell me a little bit more about it. Like what do you want people to know? People that are tuned in right now, and then for
Mm.
ladies and folks and people and supporters that are gonna join later, what should they know about it?
Yeah. So if I'm saying this correctly, this is the tea, the scoop here. So
Oh,
essentially,
this is the cafe, right?
the cafecito, because we love that.
Okay.
So Inti Nova Consulting Services for folks that are from Peru or have visited Peru. Inti is the word from the sun god of the Incan Empire. So this is
Mhm.
pre Indian times. And so the reason I came up with that name was like, I have this affinity for astrology and, wealth and purpose. And so Inti came naturally to me, and then Nova for innovación, or innovation in English. So what happened is one day my mom and my aunt and my grandma, we were all in the same household. And I was like, I like these words, come up with something, please. So basically my aunt and my mom came up with Inti Nova. So credit to them.
Yes, love that.
Yeah, so that's how they helped me, right? So it's all about, because there's things I'm great at, there's things I'm like, I need help. So here you go, help me. So that's what happened with Inti Nova Consulting Services. The question is here that I get asked a lot is like, how did you go from healthcare development, community health development, social justice to small business consulting? Because from an outsider perspective, it seems kind of strange to change industries. I disagree with that. I think with project management and the healthcare side, community and development, engagement, partnership support, that is essentially business consulting, but you're using the same tools, just different processes, right? So for example, like one of my clients was a bodega owner. So she had troubles with marketing, and I'm like, okay, so what are you currently doing now? And so we talked about that, of what she has been doing, and instead of reframing things as weaknesses, which is true, what areas of opportunities can you do? So for her, she was like, well, the Squarespace fees are a lot, especially if you're a small vendor company. Those transaction fees add a lot. Let's just be honest. So I'm like, why don't you use Cash App? It'll be directly to you. Why, this is a suggestion. She's like, that's a great idea. I'm like, yes. Why don't you start a WhatsApp group for your loyal customers so they can just message you and you can give them certain fees? So she's been doing that, and it's been going really well, right? And when you think, it's like a small thing that has a huge impact, right? It's a quick, high impact, low effort. But then when you think about the healthcare side, it's the same process, right? Like if you were to change like a telephone directory, a lot of folks may be like, oh, that's easy, quick fix. True, depending on what healthcare system you're at, but that has a huge impact, right? Like when we hear option 1, Espanol, option 2, English, that has a huge impact, right? So same tools, different processes. And, I do see the systemic barriers as well, both from healthcare and gaining financial success. And these intersection challenges are really important to me and have motivated me in the overall picture to, create sustainable solutions for both industries.
Wow. I also have a healthcare background, and lots of challenges, right? Lots of systemic challenges. And just the example even that you just shared, right? Kind of like low-hanging fruit, this one thing can have such a big impact. And I guess, right, that's very aligned with how you talk about your business, how innovation in small businesses, and you're the bridge for that. So that I love that. And so is that your full-time job, being a consultant, or you have like your day job and you're a consultant like so many of us?
So I have my day job, and then I have Inti Nova, which is I don't like to say part-time, it is my passion, right? And so, one day, right, just like all of us, but I think, part of innovation is also testing it out to see if this is fruition, because sometimes as business owners, we have this great idea, we put it into action, and then we're not seeing the outcomes that we want. And it's like, why did you test it out, right? Because who knows, maybe in 6 months, like this may pivot into something else, and that's okay. That's why starting out small, building, communities, engagement, has a long-term outcome. So slow and steady wins the race.
That's right. I saw your tagline somewhere, and I think it's really important and really powerful. Can you share that with everybody?
Yeah, so the people want to know here, it is breaking barriers and building businesses, because consulting shouldn't be expensive.
Ooh, that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good. After this, we're gonna make sure all these kind of nuggets are gonna be shared on the LinkedIn post. Did you come up with that?
Yeah, it was through efforts of another friend as well, because part of innovation is getting feedback and adjusting it. So I was like, what's catchy? And also my ethos, right? Consulting shouldn't be expensive, right? So Yeah.
I love, wow, that's I love that. So question for you, and
Yes.
you've been talking about it, but why is innovation important for small business? For those that are, sometimes when you're in it, right, it's kind of hard to pick your head up and kind of think of other things. How do I improve this process? How do I streamline this? How do I make it better? So, what are your thoughts about that, or what are you able to kind of share with small businesses and entrepreneurs that are watching you today?
Yeah, I would definitely tell folks like innovation isn't just about creating new things. It's
Mhm.
also identifying ways to make processes better for you, right? Because when we think about innovations, we think about technology, huge companies like Amazon, Google's, Microsoft, etc. But small business owners and historically undermarginalized communities, underrepresented communities, excuse me, have been the most innovative, in my opinion, right?
Mhm.
For example, in our Latinx community, this is like an example of innovation. But the Danish cookie tin can that everybody
Yeah.
gets, and there's like sewing kits.
Yeah.
That on its own,
It turned into,
I'm
if you know, you know.
if you know, you know. Or like, okay, so the reason I'm bringing up this tin can, my childhood, also, that's an example of repurposing something, right? Of
Mm,
reusing something, not throwing it away. And when companies saw that perspective of like, oh, why is this community repurposing this? Is this a new trend that we can do to the market? And
mm,
that's what we've been doing for years, right?
right,
Like these communities, like we do this, we repurpose this.
right.
So for me, it's like, how can we have things in our space that we can help it grow? And innovation is not just like creating new things, it's also creativity. What do you have
Mm,
the means within your budget to change things, to maybe create things if you want to, or seek feedback? Part of innovation is in creativity and also
mm,
testing things out. And a lot of folks are scared, and I get it, it's a
yeah.
risk, but it's also like, if you're still having those thoughts and you want to be different, because that's the world we live in, you want to be different, right? But the question is like, what do you bring to the space that you can be different with the means and resources that you have? You don't have to get X amount of dollars unless you want to, right? Go for it,
Right.
sis. But if you do have certain budgets, you can do it too. So yeah.
Wow. I loved everything you said about that. And especially when you said innovation doesn't necessarily just have to be a new thing, right? I think that was powerful to share. Um the my first cafecito guest was Zoila Quesada, right? And one of her questions was so good that I have to ask you that same question. Um what does generational strength mean to you?
Ooh, this is actually really good timing because I'm in the house with like my grandma, my mother, my niece, and myself, 4 generations. I
Mm,
think I could say for all of us is independence. And I
mm,
actually asked my grandma about this. What advice would you give us? Because she's always like, "Oh, your generation has it much easier." She's like, "Independence. Don't rely on a man." My
mm,
mother, same thing. My niece is still learning because she's Gen Alpha, but I would say also generational strengths is making your own independence, how that means for you. For my grandmother was, in the 50s, no, late 40s, early 50s, right? Leaving a small town village in northern Peru to migrate to the capital because she was a single mom and that was looked down upon. My
mm,
mother's independence and hope was moving to this country, right? And myself is being a solopreneur and having, dismantling systemic related inequities, right? And then my niece, she's actually the true first gen. So we'll see what her outcomes is, but she's a little fiery one. She'd be asking
yeah.
questions. I'm like, these are really good questions that I do not have the answer to. Go talk to your mother.
Wow.
So, but to me, overall, is independence and hope our generational strengths.
Wow. That was beautiful. And that's so tied to our culture, right? Like you keep bringing it back to your mother, to your grandmother, to your niece, right? Where you were from, where it happened, where you are now, looking ahead. That's beautiful. I can't coin that question. That was definitely Zoila's question. I just, I was like, that's so good because I never heard of that before. I've heard of, generational curses. There's so many questions around that,
Mhm.
but not generational strength. And then when I think of you, when you even were talking about when you were helping that bodega owner, it was through an asset lens, right? Not a
Mhm.
deficit lens that you were able to kind of come in and step in. So, and this is the same thing again,
Yeah.
talking about generational strength, right? Versus um, the curses. Um, if you could talk to me a little bit more about your company, right? And how you're redefining things, right?
Sure.
And kind of what you're doing. Like talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, of course. So something that I noticed with consulting, it's very expensive, right? And that's
Mhm.
okay. If you are top tier consultant, you charge how you see fit. That's not how I work. I believe in accessibility,
Mm,
equitability, and affordability. And
mhm,
consulting has a different perspective, right? And so what I started doing was we have Inti Hub, which is a subscription-based consulting service where one, it's at three different levels depending what business owners need. And it's mostly business strategy, or some folks just need like marketing help. But it's
mhm,
actually a lower cost here as opposed to, thousands of dollars to pay up front, right? And I
yeah,
think, most of my clients are BIPOC, Latinx, or monolingual
okay,
Spanish speakers, right? And
yes,
so their perspectives on consulting, let's be honest, it's like expensive, it's lucrative. Why do I need it if things are running well? And that's rightly so, because that's how it's painted across in the narrative, right? But I'm like, well, what can I do for you to one, help you get there? Because I'm just not gonna, do this project for you, right? It's also like me teaching you the tools so you feel confident. And after I step away, you can continue on the work, right? Because
nice,
I'm all about sustainability. So if folks like need support, we are I don't like to say one stop solution, but we are support based system. So
yeah,
some clients come to us for social media management and content creation, which is fine. But we also do a lot of back end to see market research. So we can't
mm,
create campaigns until we understand who your market is, right? And that came about customers feedbacks. My clients were like, yo, this is great research, but can you do my social media? And I was like, oh, okay, let me figure some things out. But that was really good feedback, right? Because if I'm doing this work, it should lead to it. I don't make content, have a great team for that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm happy to pitch in the ideas for that. And we also do a lot of like, business coaching. We have some startups that we're working with because they want to
nice,
get there. They just don't know how. Because we also know that within financial systems and starting up of businesses, there's information everywhere. And
yeah,
sometimes the information that you get is not the best source of truth.
yes,
Especially we live in this era of fact checking for everything.
mhm, mhm,
So helping out with startups, project management, right? That's also a big component for business owners. They get a grant and they're like, how do I do this? And I'm like,
yeah,
okay, let's talk about your goals and how I can get you there. So it really depends on where you are. And I love having conversations and just meeting with people and see how can we work together too.
oh, I love that. Thank you for kind of going a few inches deep, right, related to the services and um what it's like working with you, right? I think that was I think your approach is pretty unique. I love that. um we're gonna switch gears a little bit. We're gonna have a little fun. We talked about where you live, where you're from. So anybody in Salem or in that area, reach out to Gladys. You're on LinkedIn, right? You're on Facebook, you're in Instagram.
Instagram. Yep.
Okay. All right, so there's ways to get a hold of you, and we'll make sure to add all the links once we're finished here. Um, we learned about your business, the services you offer, um, why it's important to work with you, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about some fun stuff. So I'm not going to ask you like what's your word of the year because I feel like we're already in March. It's about to be summer. But what are you grateful for so far in 2025?
Um, I think what I'm grateful for is my comadre era. And for those who don't know what a
Mm,
comadre is,
mm,
it's Spanish is defined as like a sister, somebody you can go to. And I say era because I'm in that sisterhood, comadre
yes.
era. So that's what I'm grateful for, all the comadres before, past, future. I'm in my comadre era because I'm a comadre.
I love that. If I was able to put like the heart emojis right now to when you were saying that, I would have you would have had like a bunch of hearts flying right now. What anime are you watching?
Yeah, so I'm totally an otaku pre all of this solo leveling, Demon Slayer. So my current anime that I'm watching is The Seventh Time Loop. The villainess enjoys a carefree life, married to her worst enemy. It's pretty good. It's on Crunchyroll. Definitely recommend watching it.
Okay, I ain't gonna lie, I'm not into the anime. I appreciate it. I totally appreciate it. And my son was telling me that a lot of them are like actually sketched by hand and things like that,
Yeah, the
which is
mangas.
very cool. I saw some vampire one that I was like a little like
What is
mortified by.
It's
But
not for everybody, and that's okay.
girl, it is not for everybody. But okay, moving on, moving along. Um, what is one song, specific Latino pop, reggaeton, like,
Girl.
that when you hear it, you gotta move. You gotta move it. You hear it and you gotta move it.
Gasolina by Daddy
Oh,
Yankee. I am an OG. Like, listen, early 2000s when
yes,
he first came out, me
yeah.
living in Hollywood, Florida, amazing. So that just how some like genuine song. I forget that song. No, it's not genuine. I'm wrong. Sorry, don't quote me. Gasolina is my song. So
Okay. I ain't gonna lie. I think I dropped it low when that song came on too, back in the day. Oh my goodness. If your company was a superhero, what would be their superpower?
because I like anime and read mangas, I really like flying because I
Oh,
you can just move around, like I can be here today and roam tomorrow, it's
all
just that
right.
seems so fun. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. All right. I like that. If you can have a party, if you could have a fiesta, with any Latino icon, past or present, do you have somebody that comes to mind?
Oh my gosh, yes, the most iconic person is Walter Mercado.
Oh my God.
First of all, I'm into astrology and
Con
spirituality.
mucho, mucho
Mucho
amor.
more, 100%. If you don't know who Walter Mercado is, please look on YouTube. I
Yes,
think Walter Mercado, like emphasized astrology, spirituality, and also love and how the stars are
yes.
aligned, which I believe in. And I think, he and I would have a great time over
Oh,
cojitos or
oh,
any type of thing in South Florida and just talk about life. I love
I love
Walter
that.
Mercado.
I love that you know about that.
Yes.
But yeah, I love that. Oh, that was good. I did not expect that answer. That was great. We're almost finishing already. Like this was great, but I wanted to really like ask you kind of one final good question,
Yeah.
Um, what advice would you have for aspiring entrepreneurs?
Yeah. I would definitely say if you have an idea, test it, pilot, repeat, observe, and retest. Because once again, I think great ideas, great action plan, but have you tested it out to your ideal market? Because
Mm,
once you test it out, they might give you different feedback than what you were suggesting. So always test it back, get feedback, and you'll find your ideal clients and eventually grow more.
oh, I love that. A few announcements before we wrap up. But Gladys, thank you so much for being the best part of United Latinas. This was a great time. It went way faster than I thought. Um, Gladys is going to be at the Brave Voices conference happening this month on Friday, excuse me, my goodness, March 28th. You're going to be an attendee and you're going to be part of the small business
Yeah.
showcase. So if you're coming, make sure to stop and see her. Tickets are still available. You can go to the website, unitedlatinas.com, and get your tickets today. And at the end of this, we'll make sure to put all of your information in the link so folks can be able to reach out to you. And again, thank you so much for being our special guest. It was really a gift getting to know more about you and all of your superpowers. Happy Women's History Month, and I can't wait to see you soon.
Likewise, con mucho amor. Bye,
Yeah,
y'all.
con mucho, mucho amor. That's how we should have ended it.